Speaking of history.
Oh.
Speaking of history.
Oh, yeah, this is interesting.
Oh.
Was Beethoven black?
Huh.
You know what? I got to be honest. I don't really care.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Why? What does it matter? His music
he
was
made
great.
cool music.
He's glorious. It doesn't matter what your color of your skin is. If you do something amazing, I want to give you props for it.
Now, that's true. And what is it saying? That he who controls the past controls the present, and he who controls the present controls the future.
Yeah.
What was that from?
1984.
Is it?
It is, yeah.
Is it? I don't know if I got the quote right. It might be.
That is 100% from 1984. He who controls the past controls the present. He controls the present controls the future.
Yeah.
Some version of this.
Nice.
Yeah. Tim and I
Nice.
between us, I think, got it. You know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So they're
Where is this even founded?
Changing
Where
history.
are they coming with this?
So this is actually listed on a ton of verified news outlet sources talking about that maybe they changed his race because it was racist back then and he was actually black.
Where are they?
And to be
getting
honest,
that info?
I'm probably making it up.
Okay.
Possibly,
Well,
yeah.
let's pull this up. Here's the
Let's read
story
about it.
from meaw.com. Was Beethoven black? Bizarre post claims composer was African. Internet says history is being whitewashed. According to a picture being circulated on the internet, Beethoven may have been a black man and not the white man we have seen in his portraits. Now, here's my prediction. The first thing we see is the question, could it be true? And then once they seed it enough, then you'll start seeing it morph.
is
The
true,
story will
yes.
morph. It'll say,
a good
while
point.
many people do believe he was actually black, they'll passively say it.
Yeah.
Then later on, they'll say, well, originally incorrectly, called white in history books, Beethoven, a black man, actually did this. And they change history.
Yep.
So they change it. Here's what they say. There is no death of bizarre theories on the internet. The latest one to hop onto the bandwagon is none other than a theory about the greatest composer of all time, Ludwig van Beethoven. We all know Beethoven as the famous German composer and the mastermind behind several popular classical musical pieces like Fifth Symphony, Moonlight Sonata, among many others. According to a picture being circulated on the internet, Beethoven may have been a black man and not the white man we have seen in his portraits. Now, I want to make absolutely clear. I really wouldn't care if he wasn't. I don't care if he was Chinese or Muslim or whatever.
Right.
I think his music was fantastic. And I think Moonlight Sonata is one of the greatest songs ever written. It's incredible. I love that song. And the issue here for me is more about, are people going to be able to change history?
Seems like
What if someone
trying.
found like a famous black inventor and then changed it, and said he wasn't actually black. Actually, he actually was this or that. We wouldn't want to do that either. We want to respect the people, and we don't need to change their histories.
Well, Jesus was supposedly a white man. They've certainly
I don't-
changed him to white. Do you think the actual Jesus was a white guy?
We know he wasn't.
Yeah, no,
that
of
looks
course not.
that looks like me, long haired. They don't call me soy Jesus
Just
for
how they're
nothing.
stylized.
It's
But
like,
no, hey, look.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
That's exactly that's what I'm
That
saying. It's like,
when people,
well, look at that.
History is written by the victors.
One of the most famous people of all time. Was
How
he
whitewashed?
white?
Yeah.
How
No,
could
he
have been
wasn't.
Middle
No, we
East?
know he
Like,
wasn't.
no,
Middle
he
Eastern.
wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't a white guy, but he's portrayed as the whitest of whites.
What's
Yeah.
interesting is, especially with anime, that the characters. I was talking to somebody about this. There was a controversy over Ghost in the Shell when they did the live action movie, and they had Scarlett Johansson,
Right.
a white woman, playing Motoko Kusanagi. I think I'm getting the name right. Who is supposed to be a Japanese woman. And I was talking to people, so back when I worked at Fusion, I was like, actually, the whole show is about people with prosthetic bodies. Their brains are cyberized and downloaded into robot bodies. And so she could literally be anything.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was reading about this was that I started thinking, why is it that in so many anime shows, there's blonde hair, blue-eyed white people? Like Naruto, for instance. He's got blonde hair and blue eyes.
Really?
Yes, he does. And
Interesting.
Edward Elric has hazel eyes and blonde hair.
What?
And so there's a lot of shows like this. And what I read was, actually, to many Japanese people, they don't look at the characters being drawn aren't white. They're being drawn like Japanese. Some of them they do have white characters. They do have black characters. But it's white people who look at the art, and because the art is actually fairly ill-defined, like the facial features and the eyes,
Right.
white people look at it and think, that looks like me. Japanese people look at it and say, that looks like me.
Right.
So it's like people assign their assumptions, like their biases about what they look like to the thing they're seeing. So anyway, I thought that was rather interesting, especially in this context, that now apparently people want race to be the most important, prominent thing.
But now,
Sad.
but let's compare it though. In the Middle East, Jesus was probably Middle Eastern.
He was. He was Jewish.
He was literally Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now go to this article here. We got Beethoven was born in Germany.
Okay.
Probably white.
To a couple of a German couple.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean,
that settles it.
Classically speaking, Germans are. I mean, but I'm not saying that there isn't minority groups in Germany.
When was he born?
We could be wrong. Like it could have been that it was a minority group that he was born to.
This is the photo they're claiming proves that he's black.
What?
This is the image, I guess.
Oh, this is it here.
Apparently, yeah.
He looks like Bill Murray there.
Bill Murray.
Yeah,
does.
that looks
bit,
like
yeah.
Bill Murray.
Yeah.
He just kind of look like Bill Murray.
Yeah.
He was
a little
born.
bit like Bill Maher.
Sounds
I
Bill.
see that too.
He's got a Bill thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just call him Beethoven.
Beethoven. We've changed him, but not the way they thought we would.
Yeah.
He was born in
that's
1770.
1770.
Not a lot of interracial migration as far as I know.
And people just want to believe it.
They do.
Yeah, because we're rewriting all the history now. It's fun. It's really fun.
So it's interesting because I'm not going to read what they say. Oh, I'll read it. They say, "Oh, F no, I'm burning S down. Ludwig van Beethoven, the musical genius, was really black, and this whole time they tried to paint him as white. I'm tired of black people in history being erased and whitewashed."
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. And Uncle Ben just got canceled. Aunt Jemima just got canceled. So all these figures in our everyday life.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like Aunt Jemima syrup, but I've seen it. I'm like, oh, I know about it.
I recognize this.
I like
familiar.
real maple syrup myself, but it's like, I don't care what. Like it's a thing. It's a prominent thing. But they're getting rid of it completely. They're not even whitewashing it.
That person's gone.
It's just gone.
Yeah.
Objection.
Go on, Tim.
Objection.
Oh, yes.
Yes, please hit me.
Aunt Jemima syrup is awful.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure, fine.
All right, we'll give you that. Well, it's more like corn syrup.
Yeah.
right. You know what's really
It's not
funny?
even syrup,
I was
yeah.
watching Mrs. Butterworth's commercials from back in the day,
Okay.
and I guess Mrs. Butterworth's was always corn syrup.
Oh, all right.
And the commercials they would run is they'd be like, "Mrs. Butterworth's runs slower, twice, or like the leading brand runs twice as fast as Mrs. Butterworth's, and Mrs. Butterworth's pours real slow."
Yeah,
and I'm
'cause
like,
it's-
first of all, it's because it's not maple syrup,
Right.
And maple syrup is more liquid.
Yeah.
And who cares? It pours slower.
You want
it
it to
taste
stay
good?
on your
These
pancake.
commercials are so
No.
weird, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess the Aunt Jemima syrup is when they started doing just corn syrup with flavoring.
Ugh.
And you know what? Maybe her name doesn't need to be on it. Maybe they can. You know what? Here you do. Get some Vermont maple, pure, the good stuff.
Sounds
Give
good.
that to Aunt Jemima. She deserves it. Yeah. Whatever, man. But yeah, it's all part of this weird nonsensical framework. That's what it is. You Beethoven is a great person. He's got to be black. Yeah, Aunt Jemima. Now, honestly, the model and the woman who represented it sounds like a great woman,
Yeah.
but they don't want her imagery anymore.
She achieved the American dream, man. I don't get it.
I just don't.
More than that. She
Yeah,
went from a
she was a
slave
millionaire, wasn't
to
she?
a millionaire.
She was a millionaire.
That's
She
so
became
But like,
a millionaire.
but do you mean like a millionaire for her time, or do you mean a millionaire based on inflation?
That's what I read.
Because if she was a millionaire back in like 1900,
different articles that I read about it, it said that she became a millionaire. She was traveling the road. She was like selling the product.
people loved her.
They
That's
did.
crazy.
She was traveling the country, like selling her flour mix,
That's
that
very cool.
instant pancake stuff.
Yeah.
It's like that's awesome.
This is weird. This is all weird.
Yeah.
I don't get
Upside
it.
down.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, how is it not racist to get rid of all these figures that no one had issues with, especially when they were what do I want to say? Like the first person to like rise
Pioneers.
and show, boom, look, someone that rose from slavery and made it.
Right.
Like awesome. Like that's the kind of story we need more of. Like, why would we try to get rid of that completely? I don't understand.
I wonder if it's just because they hate America. I'm starting to think it is.
Yeah.
Because if she achieved the American dream and the American dream now is really, really bad, and we don't believe that anyone can achieve it, then why would you hold her up as a paradigm?
You know what? That's interesting you should say that, because I watched the Raz article or Raz
interview.
I don't
The
know
Warlord of Chaz.
So the Warlord of Chaz. It's funny that's what people are calling him, but Hotep Jesus did an interview with Raz today, and I watched it, and it was enlightening. Raz is not what they portray him as. He he is.
He said all lives matter, right?
He did. He said we're all one race.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
And I was like, awesome, man. And he's a successful man. He knows what he's doing.
Right.
He's smart.
He's clearly pro 2A, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Apparently.
no, but he's working to make real change. He doesn't want to get rid of the police. He said a lot of things that I was not expecting. He's not the figure that they want him to be.
Well,
He's like, no, I want to make real change. I'm really trying to help these people. And that's when I see this video. There was this one floating around where some dude beat up somebody, and Raz was there, and Raz didn't want to fight the guy.
The other guy started.
The other guy told
Right.
was like, I'm not gonna listen to you. I'm just gonna beat him up, and started beating him up. And it's like, see, I see now. Now that I've just heard him speak, today, it was like that was the first time I've heard from his own voice, and I was like, all right, wow, that's pretty respectful. Like he's actually trying to make legitimate changes. He's, it's, man, I there's so much about it, but it's like he is not the left's ideal person.
He's strong,
yeah,
and assertive.
He's a successful black man.
It sounds.
He's proven that you can write.
Breaks the victimhood narrative.
Right.
It
exactly.
sounds to me like he is also living the American dream.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to like him either once they figure out what he's doing, which is really interesting to me.
Yep.
Like, what kind of narrative is that to feed to the people who follow you? That's not nice.
I never liked this growing up. I didn't like this, during Occupy Wall Street when they would, and this is one thing I've brought up a lot. If I agree with them, then they use everything about my past as an excuse. That's proof. And if I disagree with them, then they disregard my entire history. So during Occupy Wall Street, I would often have conversations with people. And if I agree with them, they would say things like, I remember one conversation I had where they were like, you see, man, you are the perfect example of what's wrong with this system, right? You're smart, you're hardworking, you came down here, you're standing up for what you believe in.
Yeah.
But because you come from a family that doesn't fit that norm, they will hold you back.
Like
and
what?
that's why you are that you didn't succeed in school. And that's why you're here with us. And I'm like, sure. And then a week later, I get featured in all these magazines. And what did they say? Tim Pool is white and born with a silver spoon in his mouth.
Oh, please.
I'm sure he's a trust fund kid, and that proves everything.
Wow.
And then there were people there who knew me, and they were like, he's homeless, right? Like he sleeps in the park. And they were like, that's not true. He's just like an adventurer, he's messing around. And they're like, no, I'm pretty sure he's broke. Like we had to buy him food, and he's been eating the bagels out of like the bin, like the rest of us.
Smells kind of weird.
Yep.
Yeah, and he smells kind of weird. but their narrative was shattered.
Ironically, it still holds true.
Think. Oh yeah, definitely. Smell like onions
Sure, I know,
mostly.
it's true.
If only you knew.
It's hard.
They couldn't handle it. When I was a high school dropout, sleeping in a park with nothing, it was perfect for their narrative, for
Yeah.
their social justice narrative. Yeah, this country can't accept your families and true love. But then as soon as I was successful, you're white.
Dude, that's
You're
so
white.
backwards.
Yep.
Because all of a sudden I was like, the American dream is possible. I'm proof. No, you're
Who's
not.
been
You're a liar.
cheering for you.
And isn't
Right.
that kind of, and Terry Crews, for example, we spoke about him earlier. It's like, what do they say to him when he says, well, no, I'm successful. I'm doing all this. I believe in the American dream. Oh, well, you're a traitor. You're a traitor to your
Oh
race.
no, they call them worse things than that.
Way worse. Yeah.
Yes, they do. I wasn't going to say those things.
Right,
I know.
right. That's nice
So
of
I
you.
felt like
It makes
I
me so angry, dude.
scratched the surface of it. But
Yeah.
it's like,
I
what?
absolutely look, man. When I hear people talk about wanting to punch a racist in the face, man, I feel it. I hear you, but you
Yep.
can't live that way. You can't just walk up to a random person and punch them.
Yeah.
As much as I get that feeling, I get really mad, really mad, because I'll tell you what, I'm not going to name drop anybody, but I know some people who are Filipino, some people who are black, Mexican, and some of the smartest people, hardest working people, successful people. And like we mentioned, you can go on Twitter and find some really great people of all different races that you will agree with, that are really smart. And then when I hear people say stupid stereotypes about people based on their race, the first thing that hits me is like, bro, you're talking about my friend right now.
You're talking about someone I
Like,
know.
stop disrespecting people.
Yep.
You have a problem with people because they act like morons. I got no problem ragging on Antifa who are white and act like morons. All right. You want to talk about gangbangers? You want to talk about, criminals, burglars, whatever? Anybody from any race can be this thing. And we can rag on people for their behavior all day and night. But I have nothing but contempt and utter disdain. I've gotten into a lot of arguments with like race realists.
Yeah.
And I feel like they can't back their arguments up because these things are really difficult to prove. But what I can't stand is on one side of the coin you have the the blank slate people.
Yeah.
Everyone is completely the same, and
Nope.
they are all developed by a construct.
That's nonsense.
But then you have the
Yes.
race. But then you have the realist people who are
Right.
like, everyone is a complete product of their genetics. They can't be changed.
It's almost like it's somewhere in the middle.
And I'm like,
Like a bell curve.
Oh,
That-
yeah. Like there's literally a
Like
book
most
called
of the
Bell
people
Curve.
are in the middle of that and don't agree with either side.
Yeah, there's a book about that. And that's exactly what he's talking about.
you know what's crazy?
Yikes.
The motivations of humans are probably like 99.9% identical.
Yep.
Really?
Same emotion, same drive.
Food, make more of me.
Make food and make more of me.
Yeah, exactly. That's
yep,
it. There we
exactly. Yeah, and so when you understand like what humans really do, then everything is derivative of that, and it's about our survival and expansion. And there are people who crave power, and there are people who don't.
Yep.
There are leaders and there are followers, and there are smart people and there are stupid people. And I think it's absurd that the blank slate people are like, genetics play no role in any of these things. It's like, no, listen, man, let's be completely real. Genetics absolutely plays a role in your height, your hair color,
Of course.
your eye color,
All those things you
your
can't
fast
change.
twitch and slow twitch muscles. And yes, there probably is a correlation between race and many of these features, including intelligence.
Right.
However, you get these people on the far left who refuse to even discuss the concept of probability.
Right.
And so I defer to Sam Harris, the actual brain scientist, neuroscientist.
Right.
And he had this conversation saying it's likely that it plays a role. But I just think that nurture plays a substantial role, slightly, probably a much bigger role.
Yep.
You can program humans, you can teach them, you can develop them, you can, and they strive to succeed. So I feel there was I read a story about a chess grandmaster, and he apparently like, I'm gonna ruin the story because I'm probably not gonna get it perfect. He contacts another chess grandmaster, a female, and he's like, or I think they were chess masters or scientists. I think they're both scientists. And he's like, I know how to create geniuses. So let's have kids together and then raise them to be geniuses. And then the kids all grew up to be like the top female grandmaster chess players.
Okay.
And so they were asked to do the same thing with adopted kids. And he was like, I'm too old. I can't do it. But while it's not perfect because it was literally the children of two
That
geniuses,
is a small sample size.
I still think it's fair to point out that there is a nurture role in this. And I can speak from personal experience in the choices made by people growing up in my neighborhood. The difference between me and the kid who grew up, just a few houses down or a block away from me. It's like my mom was tutoring us and homeschooling us extra.
Yeah.
And you know what the funny thing is though?
Okay.
When I talk to some of my more right-leaning friends, they're like, Tim, that's not fair. Your mom's Korean. And I'm like, oh, come on.
That's a little
Like Korean mom tutoring her kids and being
little
very
racist.
studious and everything. And I'm like, no, but I can't argue it. Like,
I mean, technically
but my mom is
correct.
from St. Louis or something like that.
That sounds like a
I don't remember.
cultural thing then if it was really important to her.
I don't think that actually I don't think the reason that my mom was very studious and wanted to be a teacher had anything to do with race or ethnicity.
Right.
I think it had to do with more being a mom and wanting to have an
Being a
active
good
role
mom.
and yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why there are other people in the neighborhood of different races who had similar behaviors and their kids are successful. Without name dropping anybody, I know some kids whose parents were very supportive and pushed them and particularly one individual who was black and became extremely successful. There are people in my neighborhood that's of all different races. So anyway, I don't want to go on a huge rant about this. I think we get the point. But yeah, man, I'll wrap it up by saying this. I feel that anger when I hear, racists say stupid things about people because it reflects on my friends.
Yep.
And I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
I am 100% with you, man.
But I'll
Yeah.
tell you what,
I feel the same way.
you're not going to win an argument by walking up to him and screaming and smack him in the face. You're gonna invite them over for dinner with your friends of different races.
Yep.
And then like Daryl Davis did.
Yep,
I
exactly.
love this story, man.
Yeah, he's awesome. What a great story.
He met this guy who was a white supremacist who they were very apprehensive of him.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew that this guy was a huge rock and roll fan. And he was like, I can't remember whose car it was. It was a famous, a classic car convertible. And he was like, hey man, he's like, I'm a musician. I know the guy's got the car. You want to see it? And this white supremacist was like, no way. You're going to bring me to the car. And he's like, I got you. And then all of a sudden this guy was like, what? This is the coolest guy ever.
Yep.
And then he realized they're people and they came together. And Daryl Davis is a legend, man. This dude is incredible.
Yeah, if you don't know who he is, you should
Dude.
I wish I
check
could
it
have
out.
met him.
Look him up.
Amazingly inspirational dude.
Yeah, he is.
And so we did an event in Philly and he showed up. And I tell you what, man, he brought with him a chest full of clan garb.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and symbols and stuff.
Okay.
Like his
'Cause-
trophies.
He was asked,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but,
man.
but kind of.
I've
yeah.
converted
Like,
these
kind of,
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Over 200 people.
It's amazing.
And the amazing thing is that he did it by just hanging out with them.
Showing them that we're all human.
But not even really.
We all
You know what
have
I mean?
emotions. We all
like-
want to have a good time.
You
the
think
truth.
you think it's like him thinking to himself, I'm going to do my best to de-radicalize these people. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was him literally being like, you want to hang out? And then they would sit down and talk about rock and roll.
Yep.
And these guys were like, this dude's rad. And then he was saying that like eventually these guys start to think about it and they're like, hey man, these things I'm hearing don't represent my friend. And I don't like hearing these things. Daryl's cool.
Yep.
And that was it. And I'm like,
And then it spread. Love spread.
Yeah, man.
That's what I'm talking about.
you know, even if you think the worst things about people and you have assumptions and you want to focus on certain issues, I just tell you, man, we have to learn to live together on this planet.
Yes, we do.
There's not going to be a situation where, I mean, maybe China goes and just like start, purging people, but they're not going to win either. We all live on Earth. We're all humans, and I know it's silly because different cultures are, can't overlap. They can't work together.
Right.
Like we are America and China, man. But I'll tell you what, China's way of life and the Chinese Communist Party's way of doing things cannot survive on this planet without them doing committing atrocities.
Right.
That's
But
correct.
the American way of life welcomes all people. And there's problems, but we have to make sure we maintain that American culture first and foremost. And then under that umbrella of the American Constitution, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, everybody can thrive and be happy and learn to live together.
You know what, Tim? I'm going to spin the UFO
There
for
we
you right
go.
now.
Let's do it.
This is for you, Tim.
Now that we just had
Just
a
you. No one else.
beautiful, heartwarming...
Sorry, I love you all. But this is for you, man.
This
That's
is
why I
so
love-
nice.
Spin the UFO. This is why I love America, man. Because think about it. No, but I mean this. The way
you.
the
It's for
way
you
the
right now.
Chinese Communist Party runs things,
It's you.
the way a lot of these countries with their like, I don't think so many of these leftists understand how racist so many countries are. Like, I mean, literally, it's very difficult to move there.
true.
Then you have America, where we actively fight against it to the point where we have lunatics running through the streets thinking they're fighting, but they're making things worse.
They're
Right.
actually becoming racist themselves.
Right. We fight racism so hard. We have people fighting racism that mostly doesn't exist anymore.
That's great.
with racism.
Yeah.
I know it's getting bad.
It's amazing.
So that's why we have to keep resisting these people's desire to have racial pretext in law and discrimination. So I'll put it this way, man. These far leftists, they like to say to me, aren't you a fan of Star Trek? Don't you want to live in that future? That's what we're trying to build. And I'm like, no, you're not.
Do they know the story though too? Because
San Francisco.
society crumbled.
Yep.
Is that the plan?
And then after they realized it didn't work that way, Star Trek started.
I see what they're going
like,
for.
And the
You
way
don't know Star Trek.
you know what I tell them is like, listen, a real future that incorporates a one world system, we call it Earth, and it's the Federation, and we travel the stars. We all live together. That means you can't go and throw a pie in someone's face for being white. That
Yep.
means you can't start smearing and insulting white people. It means that even if you meet someone who's white, who's a racist, you've got to sit down with them and you got to talk to them about why we're going to hang out, have a beer, have a slice of pizza,
Yeah.
and then that's the end of it. You can't play this race tribalism game like they're playing.
Yep.
They're bringing the problems back.
Yep, they are.
I don't like it.
I don't either.
Yeah, we're regressing.
But you know what, man? They're taking ground. That's scary, right? Yeah. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify. And we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.